your forecast first. Sponsored by Matex Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.
A beautiful shot out there as the sun has set on the roofing dugout at Adams Memorial's camera. A cold winter night once again. But those skies had cleared today. The sun came out. It's very pleasant. Not expecting any snow out there for this evening. That may change by this time tomorrow night. We'll talk about that coming up. But it's another cold one. You know the drill by now. It's 14. Wind chills, single digits. Feels like 3 degrees outside. And as we go throughout tonight, continued cold with those temperatures. Look out for a few of those slick spots as usual. Tomorrow, snow, another system for the weekend, and when we warm up to near 40 coming up. WCIA 3 News starts right now.
Now on WCIA 3 News.
He's been the most powerful lawmaker in the state for decades, but today, Michael Madigan's run has finally come to an end. Plus, a school district in central Illinois hired a new superintendent. Why his past has led to his resignation.
And also tonight, there's a car crash and 2 teenagers are shot, who police have in custody.
You're watching your local news leader. This is WCIA 3 News at 6.
I wish Chairman Madigan, former Rep Madigan, former Speaker Madigan well.
Half a century after he first took office, former Speaker Michael Madigan is leaving his office in Springfield. Good evening, I'm Paul Cicchini.
And I'm Jennifer Roscoe. House Democrats elected a new speaker to replace Madigan last month. Now Madigan is making his exit, resigning as an elected official. Our Capitol Bureau Chief, Mark Maxwell, is live in Springfield. And Mark, really no one has had more power or made more impact on Illinois in the last 50 years.
Jennifer, the signs of his impact are all over Springfield, good and bad. Mike Madigan was a delegate who helped write the Illinois State Constitution in 1970 that protected state worker pensions and enshrined the flat income tax in the state constitution. Since then, of course, nationally, we've seen income inequality soar. In Illinois, we've seen our pension debt soar. So, too, did the power of the Democratic Party that he helped to build.
Our first order of business will be legislation which is already being drafted.
One of his first acts as Speaker, Michael Madigan used his power to give unions more power.
1983, when we adopted the collective bargaining statute.
The successful property tax appeals attorney
we had the ability to lower property taxes on homeowners.
Went on to hear this 17 out of 18 times.
Michael J. Madigan has been elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Losing grip on his gavel just once in 36 years. In debate, he was stubborn.
I, as a citizen of the state and as a public official, are entitled to my view.
In negotiations, ruthless.
This is another case of where I decided to take what I could get.
In the press,
Excuse me.
he was often defensive.
Excuse me, you got the answer. You got the answer.
On occasion, even dishonest.
So we're going to recommend anyone to work for comment or Islam. Do you ever refer someone?
No.
Madigan leaves office still fighting a federal investigation. That outcome undetermined. But he won the fight he sees as his defining moment.
The current budget crisis was completely avoidable.
The budget battle with Republican Governor Bruce Rauner.
In an epic struggle with the executive department.
Madigan dug in and drew a red line.
But they're not going to sacrifice the interest of the middle class on their wages and their standard of living.
And ultimately outlasted his rival both in the budget battle and in office.
We removed Rauner from office and we installed our governor, J.B. Pritzker.
That next year, Illinois raised the minimum wage, passed a law promoting equal pay, legalized marijuana, expunged criminal penalties, gave state workers a pay raise and a new contract, and passed a new capital bill, doubling the gas tax and giving labor unions a lot more work.
I'm done. Enjoy your day.
And with that, Speaker Madigan resigns effectively today. Throughout his career, his loyalty to unions never wavering. His closing acts were fighting for the Black Caucus. First, last year, removing that statue of Stephen Douglas outside the State House he called racist. And then the closing moments of the lame duck session, passing those sweeping changes to police reform and criminal justice legislation, big pillars of the Black Caucus agenda. Reporting in Springfield, Mark Maxwell, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
Mark, thank you. Now here's some history for you. In 1969, Madigan was elected committeeman in the 13th Ward. He was the youngest at that time at the age of 27. In 1970, he was elected to represent the 22nd District in the Illinois House. Then in 1983, he became Speaker. That has lasted until this year.
A newly hired superintendent is backing out of his contract after backlash from the community where he was hired. WCIA 3's Courtney Bunting joins us now. So, Courtney, what happened?
Well, Paul, David Martin said it was the reasoning behind him deciding to resign is based on a few different things. His background as a professional wrestler, the time he spent acting on the Jerry Springer Show, and backlash as well for his sexual orientation. Less than 2 weeks after signing on to become the new superintendent for Altamont Schools, David Martin is now resigning. With 15 years of experience working with schools, the Tennessee native said he was ready to do what was right for students and the district. But in a resignation letter to the board, he says, quote, "The events over this past week with the backlash from the community because of my involvement in professional wrestling and an acting job I accepted over 20 years ago have taken a personal toll on myself." He added that, quote, "Everyone has a past. I am not ashamed of my involvement in the professional wrestling business." Martin also addressed his experience as an actor for the Jerry Springer Show, saying he admits he might make a different decision now than he did when he was 22. But he felt it was cool and exciting at the time, adding that he never hurt anyone or did anything illegal. He went on to explain that he felt the community's reaction was about more than his wrestling career or his time on Jerry Springer, saying he feels some of the backlash came from him being gay and that he knows there's a long way to go in promoting tolerance and equality. I did reach out to all of the school board members today. I emailed all of them and also called the board president to get her take on Martin's decision, but I never heard back. Live in the newsroom, Courtney Bunting, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
Courtney, if and when you hear back, let us know what they say.
Will do. All
right, Courtney, thanks. A former tech coordinator for the Blue Ridge Community Schools pleaded guilty to defrauding the district of around $336,000. Joshua Raymer was accused of telling the district computer switches had failed and needed replacements. There were more than 100 switches replaced, costing them more than $400,000. Raymer sold those parts as his own property. He's expected to be sentenced in June, and he faces up to 20 years in prison. And here's a follow-up. 2 women who say they experienced sexual violence and harassment by a former U of I professor are taking legal action. Gary Hsu was the head of the U of I's East Asian Languages and Cultures Department. Former students accused him of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. He had a federal lawsuit against him. Hsu was placed on administrative leave in 2016. He resigned and left the school in August 2018. Now, 2 women are filing a lawsuit against the university. They claim the school deliberately overlooked their allegations to make sure it could still profit from the Chinese student population. U of I says, in part, quote, "The university investigates and takes appropriate action whenever conduct is reported that may jeopardize or impact the safety or security of our students or others."
2 17-year-olds were shot in Springfield. It happened on East Enterprise near North Albany. Police say both teenagers were seriously hurt. A car went into a ditch and the windshield was shot out. Police have a 16-year-old suspect in custody related to the crime. There was severe damage to a house in Urbana after a fire today. It happened on Hill Street near Harvey. No one was in the home and no one was hurt. The front of the house was up in flames when firefighters got there. More than 17 were on the scene. They were able to get to the house in 2 minutes because it was so close to a fire station.
Having them respond within 2 minutes is tremendously beneficial. Having people that can get in, get it knocked down, and save as much as they can.
The cause of the fire is under investigation. Champaign Fire Department lent a hand by covering the Urbana fire station while they were battling the fire.
It was a nice morning in central Illinois, how that proved deadly on the interstate.
And also tonight.
Their training is somewhere around 4 to 5 months.
Hundreds of people are being vaccinated at a new site. Why one like this could be coming to a city near you. And we had lots of sunshine today, but it's still cold.
It's still really cold out there tonight. Actually, today's high is what the average low.
Oh, I don't like to hear that.
Yeah, 21 should be that for the low. 39 is the average high, so pretty incredible there. Okay, when we come back, there's another round of snow for tomorrow to tell you about. System for the weekend, and we'll talk about when we go above 32 when we come back.